Left. Now Lawrence goes down, has to get up, breaks a tackle, touchdown Jacksonville.
The NFL just never stops. It's just great, it seems like, every weekend. Through 5 weeks already, so many memories and so many produced this past weekend with the Tampa Bay-Seattle game all-time for a regular season combined quarterback performance. The crazy Arizona-Tennessee game, which, by the way, head coach Jonathan Gannon in Arizona apologized for going after the running back that dropped the ball prior to going into the end zone, which seems to be now the dumbest thing that happens in sports. And then we get last night a really good game going in that more than lives up to it, with Trevor Lawrence literally being tripped by his right guard on a play in which they got to get into the end zone down 28-24, and somehow he gets up and runs it in for a touchdown. Wild play, great game, another winning week for the smell test. 4-3 on the weekend. We've had 6 smell tests so far this year, Max, and 6 winning weeks, hitting at 61% on the year. Cruising. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot of picks coming up Thursday and Friday this week. Good morning. Max is here with me on the show today. Nick Ackridge will join us at 11 a.m. Nick's with Pro Football Focus. Talk about Sunday's game. Talk about the first 5 games overall. Lot of conversation about Sunday. And what I've found based on my social media circle is that most of the conversation is actually about Bill. It's about Krosky Merritt. This from Dr. Ed. Dr. Ed writes, Kevin, as the volunteer historian of your show, I didn't know that we had named Dr. Ed the volunteer historian of this show. He does seem to remember, by the way, almost everything that I have said and anything that any guest has said over the years. He writes, as the volunteer historian of your show, I reviewed your reaction when the Skins drafted Bill. You said he had really good speed, decent vision, and great cutback ability, a perfect fit for a zone run scheme. You liked him, called him athletic and explosive, but thought he was more of a change of pace guy than a 20 carry a game back. You gave the pick a B to C plus and said you'd wished that they had traded up for Damian Martinez. I don't think I said trade up for Damian Martinez. I guarantee you I didn't suggest that they trade up for Damian Martinez. Pick Damian Martinez, yes. Trade up for him, no. Who, by the way, was drafted by Seattle in the 7th round, waived, re-signed to the practice squad, then released on September 19th. Kevin, I think you deserve a B for your draft analysis of Bill. Don't feel bad. At least you bothered to do the research. Unlike Clinton Portis, who, when you asked him what he thought about Krosky Merritt, he said, I have no idea who he is. Well, Clinton's not studying the draft, Dr. Ed. He's a coach at Delaware State, coaching with Deshaun Jackson, and coaching, by the way, running backs and the number 1 rush offense in 1AA or FCS. Sorry. But thank you, Dr. Ed. I don't think I deserve a B. I mean, if I gave him a B to a C plus, I deserve a D minus for that evaluation of Bill. Every bit of it. I did there were a lot of backs. We did a lot on the running backs because this really was a draft in which, the running backs were thought to be incredibly, deep in this last draft, and that you didn't need to draft a Hampton or a Genty in the first round. Now, people saw a big difference with Genty and everybody else. All right. And I think that's probably fair, although with running backs, it's really hard to know for sure. Hampton went in the first round as well. By the way, did you see this yesterday? I talked about in my game take yesterday that Omarion Hampton was not on the field for that last Chargers drive that ended in the San Ristil interception after the Johnny Newton tipped pass. And I said that was a huge benefit because not only did they have Hassan Haskins come in, but actually the guy at the goal line that was in the game was their third string running back, Vidal. And if you had Hampton in the game, you probably go Hampton first and goal, Hampton second and goal. Maybe you throw it. I don't know. But Hampton's a bigger threat as a runner down at the goal line. So he was getting taped up, according to, Burkhart and Brady during that drive. Turns out, injured ankle, injured reserve. They put him on IR yesterday. Big blow for the Chargers, who just, along with the 49ers, our team for sure, the Ravens for sure, are way up there in, okay, these are the teams that have been bitten badly by the injury bug early in the season. I mean, the Chargers started 3-0. They just started losing offensive linemen left and right. They lost Najee Harris. Now they've lost Hampton. They lost Khalil Mack. Remember, we didn't have to face him on Sunday. So Hampton to the IR. But anyway, back to the Bill conversation and backs. There were so many interesting backs in this draft. And some of them have made, early impressions. Genty, Hampton, RJ Harvey in Denver has looked good. The guy Tootin, who was in the game last night. They've got ETN, and then they've got Tootin in the backfield for Jacksonville. Scadaboo's looked really good for the Giants. The kid in Houston, Woody Marks, the USC kid, has been good. Sampson's gotten some time. I'll tell you who I think has been the most impressive, and he missed the first couple of games because he was suspended as they looked into some of these allegations regarding, I think, a domestic situation. Quinshon Judkins for the Browns. Legit. Wow, does he run hard. He went over 100 on Sunday in the London game against Minnesota. He looked good. But yes, there were a couple of backs I liked, and I really liked Martinez from Miami. Was surprised that he lasted until the 7th. And look, that could be an issue of a lot of things we don't know about. That's the thing with these drafts. We don't know the personal. But I do remember, after looking at Krosky Merritt, liking what I saw, but also definitely, saying over and over again, 7th round running backs almost always are misses for whatever reason in the NFL. And I went back over the last 10 years of 7th round running backs, listed them all. And the only one to have made an impression and made a real legitimate contribution, Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City, who was on the field last night. Well, guess what? Certainly looks like in the last 11 years, we're going to have 2 7th round picks that end up being legitimate backs and contributors in the NFL, because Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, is off to a great start, no doubt. So a lot of Bill conversation, and I want to start with that on the show today, because a lot of you have just reached out and said, this is who he reminds me of. Because I think we mentioned it briefly yesterday, and there were a couple of comps, and I said, I don't really have a comp. And I don't. There's nobody that just jumps out for me. Like, that's who he runs like. I mean, he is, we had the one tweet from someone who said, man, this guy's got Chris Johnson's speed. I'm like, okay, stop. Okay. He doesn't have Chris Johnson's speed. We went back and looked at the 40 times. Chris Johnson, a.k.a. the Tennessee Titans, Chris Johnson, is probably the fastest running back in NFL history. He ran a 4.24. Krosky Merritt ran a 4.45. Good time. Not what you would call world-class running back speed at the NFL level, but it's good speed, and you can see it, and it's very functional speed. I think his burst and his quickness is as impressive as his speed. To me, it's his vision. You could see that in the New Mexico, highlight reel when you went back. He's got excellent feel and vision, especially inside as an inside runner. Whether it is finding that seam, being patient, really good with his feet, cutting ability, or laterally being able to break it to the outside with vision that says there's nothing here. And, they had that first touchdown run, untouched. really good vision to bounce, excellent blocking on the play, no edge setting by the Chargers. Touchdown, Bill Krosky, merit. But that's the question. I want to know who you think, he plays like. Who's the running back, current or historically, who you think Krosky Merritt is a good comp for, running style-wise? It's not easy. I'm going to give you a bunch of these, okay? From where is it? Well, from my friend Scott. Scott writes, not Van Pelt, a different Scott. Scott writes, I think he runs like LaDainian Tomlinson. Okay, LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer, but stylistically, we can comp him to anybody, great or even average. From GH, I see Tiki Barber. From where is the hold on for 1 second. So many additional Bill tweets here. My fault. Anyway, several people compared him to Mike Thomas, including a caller yesterday, partly because of his number. Man, you got to be old like me to remember Mike Thomas, the 1975 Rookie of the Year for the Redskins, drafted in the 5th round from UNLV, and was a really good running back, and one of those guys that was really good as a vision, wasn't a blazer, wasn't like, a burner, but really had terrific vision between the tackles and was just an excellent back. And was the, offensive rookie of the year, and was the last offensive rookie of the year until RG3 won it in 2012. And that was unique for the time because George Allen didn't draft players. Here's a comp. Kevin, I see a lot of Barry Sanders and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. That from Dom on Twitter. I don't see any Barry Sanders in Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Barry Sanders is not a good. There are very few, if ever, running backs that I would comp to Barry Sanders. He had a style that was totally unique. The thing about Barry Sanders is it was stop, start. It was go backwards to get forwards. It was an odd running style. He was elusive. That was his number one trait, was being able to not get tackled at times 6-7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, because that's the direction he actually went in many times before he would go forward. I don't see that comp at all. Kevin, I see a lot of Emmitt Smith. This from Jacob. I see a lot of Emmitt Smith in Bill. He never takes a direct shot. That is true. His build is completely different than Emmitt's. Emmitt was built kind of compact and low to the ground. I don't think I see Emmitt Smith, but I know what you're talking about. This from Derek. Derek sees Adrian Peterson. We've got some Hall of Fame comps here. Okay, LT, LaDainian Tomlinson, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson. I know these are the backs we kind of remember, but give me a back that maybe wasn't an all-time great. There's another one here. This from Maurice. Maurice writes, Kevin, I see a lot of Willis McGahee in Krosky Merritt. McGahee was just bigger. McGahee was bigger and more physical as a back. Look, what's surprising so far about Bill for me is his yards after contact. He breaks tackles. He's very hard to wrap up, which speaks to clearly he's got lower body strength. But I don't see McGahee. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Who's a good comp? Just looking through. I'm looking for somebody who isn't a Hall of Famer. Kevin, I see Aaron Jones in Bill. Yeah, there's a little bit of Aaron Jones. Jones is kind of I think Aaron Jones is a very good vision runner. Also, a high yards per carry guy, which Bill's leading the league in yards per carry. People, he's leading the league in expected yards per carry. I mean, these are really impressive numbers so far. Small sample size. And small number of carries. Maybe if he gets 18, 19, 20, those averages come down a little bit. I could see a little bit of Aaron Jones. Want to find players. Kevin, Lamar Miller. So, because I did ask on my podcast for comps, so I got a lot of these via Twitter and email. Lamar Miller, I always felt like was an underrated kind of Miami back, and ended up playing, by the way, for the Dolphins. And I thought Lamar Miller was the quintessential kind of vision back. Wasn't going to blow you away in a lot of ways, but was versatile and really always ended up getting more than you thought he should get. Was Lamar Miller ever a Pro Bowler? Lamar Miller. He did make a Pro Bowl. He made a Pro Bowl with the Texans in 2018. Interesting. He made a Pro Bowl with the Texans in 2018, rushing for 973 yards in 14 games. That seems like a bit of a stretch. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Give me your NFL current or historical comp for Krosky Merritt. I feel like we may have done this with backs, before the draft, but I don't think we ever did it with Bill. It's now time to do it for Bill. We'll do that next. Want your thoughts on that. Again, Nick Ackridge from Pro Football Focus at 11. A little bit of sort of upon further review of the Chargers games, some things that I went back and found in the All-22 that I want to share with you on the show today. But let's talk Krosky Merritt and his amazing start as a 7th-round running back draft choice to this 2025 rookie season. That's next. Who does Bill remind you of? Current historical NFL running back comp from Devin, Arian Foster. He has that kind of vision. Arian Foster had a very upright running style. It was very Eric Dickerson-esque. I don't see the Arian Foster comp. From James Arthur 81 HOF, Ricky Irvins. Ricky Irvins was a smaller, shifty kind of a back. I don't see the Ricky Irvins comp. It's interesting. We haven't seen enough of him yet. You know, I'm going a lot on what I've seen in the 5 games, but also based on what you saw at New Mexico. He would be a phenomenal kind of zone scheme because he is patient. He does have great vision. He does have great cutting ability. I think he's excellent in tight spaces. You can see that. Like all of a sudden it looks like there's nothing and he's 5-6 yards down the field. From Cedric, I got it, Sheehan. A smaller version of Fred Taylor. Yeah, I mean, I just have a hard time because Fred Taylor was a big, strong 225, 230-pound back, wasn't he? 301-230-0980. Who's the comp? Bill, you said you had one, Max.
I do. And I was kind of, the second you asked this question, I started thinking about it and I started going around YouTube. I started off with LT because that's where my brain first went to. And then that was the first name you brought up. So I said, all right, let's start there. So we started with LT and then we kind of kept bouncing around. Then I started looking at James Cook highlights and I started talking to Brian, and Brian mentioned his brother, Dalvin Cook. Yes. And then I cut on Dalvin Cook's highlights and I see it. It's the cut ability, the ability to break tackles, the getting downhill. Dalvin Cook is a remarkable comp. If you cut on the highlights and just start watching, you'll see a lot of Bill in there.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually can see that. You know, Bill does have who wrote this? Where is it? From Devin, Arian Foster. Bill is a little bit upright. Devin, if that's what you're going with, there is a little bit uprightness to his running. We sort of observed that in the preseason. But Arian Foster was, we're getting carried away here after 5 games, but it's been impressive. I mean, at this point, this dude is averaging right now. If you didn't know this, he's averaging 6.6 yards per carry. Number 1 in the league in average yards per carry. I mean, I know he doesn't have enough carries to be like over the moon over that yards per carry, but his running back yards over expected is number 1 in the league. Some of the advanced numbers are treating him very well. Yeah, I kind of like that Dalvin Cook. What was Dalvin Cook speed-wise? Dalvin Cook was plenty fast enough and was able to take it to the house from 80. But he was not, the fastest back in the league.
He ran a 4.49 at the 2017.
So that's Bill's speed.
Yeah, and then they're also both the same size. Bill's 5'11", 208, and Dalvin Cook 5'10", 210. So right there, kind of in the height and weight category as well.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, he had some really good years with the Vikings. He's not in the league anymore, is he?
No, he was kind of kicking around last year on the practice squad for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But through his first like 4 or 5 years, he averaged 4.5 yards a pop. So
what was his best season?
Best season was 2020, 14 games played, 312 carries, 1,500 yards, 5 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
He was excellent. So he had 4 straight 1,100 plus seasons, with his best season, like you said, 1,557 and 16 touchdowns in 2020. During those years in Minnesota, very much, no matter who the coordinator was, Kubiak, Stefanski, it didn't matter. It was a zone running quarterback under center with Kirk a lot scheme with a lot of play action in it. And Cook was the running threat there that made play action work. I like the Dalvin Cook comp.
I'm glad.
301-230-0980. Let's start with Mark in DC. Mark, go ahead. Who's the comp for Bill?
Kevin, how's it going, man?
Good, Mark.
Good. For me, I've had this guy on my fantasy team the past 10 years, or I'm sorry, 5 of the past 10 years. And it hit me on Sunday. I see it. It's 41 on the Saints. It's Kamara all day long, every day. He hits the hole, and he kind of has that vision when he hits that hole to bounce it outside, just like Kamara. You kind of lose him for a second, and boom, he's gone. Also, when he hits that hole, that speed that Kamara has, I know it's 4.4. I think Kamara is similar. Kamara maybe 4.3, but they're both sort of same size, and the vision's spectacular on both.
Man, I would have never gone to Alvin Kamara, in part because how many balls a year does he catch? He's in the first of all, so this is the interesting thing, and I've got his numbers here. By the way, I love Alvin Kamara. I think he's a great back. I mean, his first 3 years in the league, first 4 years in the league, he caught 80-plus balls. He was a better receiver than he was a runner. He's never gone over 1,000 yards. I just think in terms of the kind of play that Bill will get, it will be much more as a runner than as an all-around versatile pass-catching, Marshall Faulk, Warwick Dunn kind of a back. That's my guess. Maybe he develops into that. It's possible, but I don't see the same level of, versatility. But I think he can catch the ball. I don't see him becoming the quarterback's go-to guy as much as the number one receiver on the team is. You know what I mean? We saw that with Marshall Faulk. We saw that with guys like Warwick Dunn. We've seen that with Kamara. You see that with Bill? You think he's going to be an 80-catch guy a year? Did we moved on from Mark? Sorry. Now, if you're specifically saying the running style, okay. I think Kamara's lower to the ground, shiftier, lower to the ground. A real burst and a real, Alvin Kamara's got to be a 4.3 guy, right? I'm guessing. Sean and Brandywine. Sean, go ahead. Who's your comp for Bill?
You're going to be surprised when I say this. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning,
Joe
Sean.
Washington. It reminds me a lot of Joe Washington.
Man, we love Joe
Washington.
We love Joe Washington, but again, I'd almost put Joe Washington into the Alvin Kamara, category of as much a receiver as he was a runner. And Joe was smaller, right? A lot smaller, and lower to the ground. And Joe Washington,
the
5'9", 179 pounds.
But remember, Kevin, Joe was elusive. Quick feet, and he had vision.
Great vision.
You think he's going one way, and all of a sudden, he can stop on a dime and go a whole nother direction. And that's what I see in Bill. Because there were times when I was watching the game Sunday, and I'm like, how did he get out of there? To even have to go up the middle and say, hey, everybody's in here. I'm going outside and bounce that thing outside. So he doesn't have tunnel vision when he runs. I've been telling people all season long since the preseason, feed Bill. Bill is something special. I think he's elusive, quick feet, and he sees the field. And,
Look,
with that being said,
I agree with everything you said, but here's
runner.
the difference between him and somebody like Joe Washington, him and somebody like Alvin Kamara or Warwick Dunn or Marshall Faulk. Those guys, including Joe, were backs in which you tried to get them the ball in space. That's why you threw it to them a lot. And in space, they were devastating. This guy he might be good at that. I'm not suggesting that he can't do that. But this guy's built to be a running back, a lead back where he's getting the ball in the backfield between the tackles and using that vision to, find the spot and the daylight to get that 6 to 7 yards per pop as a runner. That's where I don't see. And Joe Washington was so elusive to your point. By the way, Barry Sanders elusive in many ways in space in the open field. I don't see that yet
Right.
with Bill, and I see Bill much more as a true running back, where Joe Washington was a true third down change of pace back. Thanks for the call.
And I get that. And thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, sure, Sean. Let's go to G. G, who you got?
Man, we are getting a little carried away, man, but it makes for good radio, Sheehan. But to bring up Barry Sanders and LaDainian Tomlinson, and even somebody brought up Willis McGahee with all them injuries. Like,
Yeah,
coming out of Miami, he was never confused as a 7th-round draft pick. That's how talented McGahee was.
of course.
I would say, from what they did in college, C.J. Spiller, Kenny Walker out of Michigan State. Shout out to homie Brian Westbrook, out of DeMatha, and DeAndre Swift.
Kenneth Walker the third is one of my favorite backs in the league. By the way, he can't stay healthy either.
Yeah.
But I to me, he runs you over too. I mean,
no, but see, that's why for somebody to say, try to comp him to Chris Johnson, who is one of the fastest human beings in life.
yeah,
I understand it because they watching him in game time, and game speed is a lot more relevant and a lot more beautiful and faster to watch than watching a 40 time. And that's what Bill got. Bill got great game speed, and that's why I comp him to a DeAndre Swift type. He bigger than Swift, but
he's bigger than Swift.
Max.
Yeah.
C.J. Spiller was a monster coming out of Clemson, and that's why I put C.J. Spiller at the top.
C.J. Spiller, though, also a bit more of, that versatility as a pass catcher, too. Like, I mean, maybe they'll end up using Bill in that way. Maybe he'll end up being the Austin Eckler as much as he, is going to be a lead back.
But see, that's why it's a scratch of the head. That might have been the reason why they chose Eckler to start off the season with, because we was all calling for Bill to get more touches, and it took him till week 3, week 4 to really get it, and they seeing more than we seeing in practice. So that might be a problem that Krosky Merritt gotta get better at catching it out the backfield. But it was a scratch of the head. From what he did Sunday, he should have been on the field getting them touches earlier.
Yeah, I think that's right. But they had their reasons, and probably part of it, not probably, it's almost definite that he's got to learn pass pro. They always say that about these young backs. Like, you can't have them out there that much because they've got to learn that pass protection is as important as running the football. I say to that, coach him up quickly on pass pro, because you don't want to lose 6.6 yards per carry times 14 carries. Yeah.
Yeah, see, and I'm with you. Coach him up quickly, because a blind man can see what he do on the field. Get him up to speed quick. It looked like they had an underhand backroom deal with Eckler to be the number 1 back, because Krosky Merritt is a lot more electrifying. Eckler is a toolbox, but man, put that young fella in the backfield and give him them 20.
Yeah, they're
20
going
seconds,
to now.
right?
They're going to now. Thanks,
Oh,
G.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Let's go to Michael in Clinton. Michael, who's your Bill comp, historical or current?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
The first call of Mark stole my thunder. I'm with Alvin Kamara, too. That's what he reminds me of. And after the game was over this week, Tom Brady interviewed Bill and gave him that award. And Bill was saying that he couldn't wait to show us more. I think he can do a lot more. I think he can catch that ball out the backfield. We just haven't used him in that manner yet. But Alvin Kamara is also who he reminds me of, man.
Yeah, and by the way, he did catch it out of the backfield on Sunday. Had a really good check down for 20-something yards, I think 28 yards, and he looked good out of that. There's something about, I don't see the Kamara running style as a running back, and I don't see the way they use Kamara in New Orleans as the way they'll use Bill here. I could be wrong. It's very early. I don't see him catching 80-plus balls 4 straight years and not being a 1,000-yard-plus runner. I see the opposite. I see him being, at 6.6 yards per carry. That won't hold up more likely than not as he gets more carries. But let's just call it a 5 yards plus per carry guy. If he ends up getting 15, 16, 17 carries a game, I see him as a 1,200 yard plus runner, not an 80 plus a year reception guy. That's a different conversation. I understand that than the running style. But I still don't see a lot of similarities in the Kamara and Bill running style. Bill is a little bit upright, not Arian Foster, Eric Dickerson upright, but there is a little bit of an upright nature. But man, does he have quick, decisive, excellent feel and vision as a runner. Rigo always said his number one attribute wasn't his speed, wasn't his power, it was his eyes. That vision, great vision, makes great running backs. All right, I see all of you on hold. Stay there. We'll do this for another segment. Who does Bill Krosky Merritt remind you of? Who's his NFL current or historical comp? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, it is Tuesday, October 7th. We start off with a recap of Monday Night Football. It was absolutely electric game last night between the Chiefs and the Jaguars, who won on a broken play where Trevor Lawrence got tripped by his O-lineman and scrambled in for the touchdown. Jags win 31-28. To baseball, the Dodgers, they hold off the Philadelphia Phillies as they attempt a late-game comeback, scoring 3 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, but Roki Sasaki comes in and escapes the win with the win. Dodgers now lead the series 2-0. And the Brewers, they beat the Cubs last night by a score of 7-3. Jackson Chourio with a 3-run home run straight out to center to seal the game for the Brewers. They win again 7-3. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Cross me, man, with a little bit of how you like me now.
Commanders rules.
We got this guy. I don't know if y'all know him, but his name is Bill.
What is that you just came back?
It's the Commanders edit for Bill. So Bill Nye the Science Guy. Do you know who that is? He was big when I was a kid. So people every time that he scores, people have been posting just Bill Nye the Science Guy edits with Bill. And so this last night was the big one that they put out in the middle of the night. Yeah. So since we're talking Bill, figured I'd come back with it.
God, there's a lot of response to this.
So many.
I thought there would be. By the way, real quickly, G from the shop just DM'd me. There have been 0 comps to Barry Sanders in my lifetime. That is so true. And I've seen a lot of you tweeting to me Le'Veon Bell. I think there have been very few comps for Le'Veon Bell's running style. No, I don't see Bill as Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell would literally get the ball in the backfield and stop for a second or two before deciding what to do. He had unbelievable patience, maybe the all-time level of patience as a running back. And by the way, the combined patience and vision. But his style of running was completely different. I see Krosky Merritt as patient. I see him as more than anything else, a great vision runner, especially in between the tackles. Like, he's really good inside as a runner. You even saw that, in the preseason games for whatever it was worth. But you saw that definitely on the New Mexico stuff. And I got to give credit to C-Dub and D-Vol. They both mentioned somebody on Twitter that I was going to come back with and mention. Terry Allen, if we're going to use a skins comp. Terry Allen, size-wise, style-wise, very similar. Now, I think Terry Allen may be a little bit more of a rugged runner and was. Maybe that'll end up being Krosky Merritt as well. But I see that comp, definitely. Terry Allen was a good back. Terry Allen rushed career-wise for, 8,600 yards over his career and was very good here. Terry Allen is I think he's top 50 maybe. 41 on the all-time rushing list. 41 Terry Allen is. All right, back to the phone lines. Let's go to Anthony in D.C. Anthony, who's your comp for Bill?
So, Kevin, I was the one that brought up Mike Thomas yesterday.
Right, you did.
So I was working completely off my mind's eye what I remember how I envisioned him running. So just to make sure I wasn't crazy, I went to YouTube. Highlights of him are hard to find, but the few that I did find, I see a similar stride.
Yeah.
When they both run. So that's what I was basing it off. Not the number, just almost, to me at least, almost a mirror stride for both of them.
Let me just tell you something, Anthony, because you'll like this. I don't know, a few years ago, and so I'm assuming it's still there. He had a game, and I think for many, many years, it was the number 1 rushing performance game in Skins history. I think it was 195 yards at the Cardinals, St. Louis. And that game in its entirety was on YouTube, the way CBS broadcasted it. And he was sensational in that game. And that was the franchise record for rushing yards in a game for many, many years until I believe Gerald Riggs broke the record and went over 200. And then Timmy Smith, obviously, for the playoffs. But I think Riggs broke the regular season record that Mike Thomas held for many years. But stylistically, he was not a burner. He was an inside vision runner who could also catch the football a little bit out of the backfield, for sure. Right. Thanks for that.
One more thing. One more thing.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, People's Drugstore used to get the program guide.
Yeah.
The little paperback guide. I remember specifically in one of them, I think it was the following year, there was a picture of Mike Thomas, black and white picture. It said, the caption said, "Take a look here at our rookie, number 22, Mike Thomas."
Yeah. I looked this up after you called yesterday. He passed away a few years ago. He was just 66 years old. Remember, he went to the Chargers in maybe Washington waived him or traded him for, a fourth round pick or something. And he had a lot of drug issues. Remember, there were a lot of drug issues that he had. And I think he had a tough life after retiring from the NFL, and he passed away a few years ago. But man, he was a really good runner for sure. Thanks for that, as always, Anthony. Let's go to Michael in Gaithersburg. Michael, give me your comp.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of them. First of all, what about Thurman Thomas? I'm looking at it in terms of his ability to shed tackles.
I see Thurman Thomas like I see Alvin Kamara, like I see Warwick Dunn. More in the, what were his reception numbers? Yeah, I mean, he was 50 plus, 60 plus in receptions. And stylistically, nothing jumps off for me about a comp for Thurman Thomas. But who else you got?
And this is based on listening to Doc Walker. He compared him to Larry Brown. And I'll tell you why I think Larry Brown. I've never seen a back that initial first step to get into the hole. And this is a guy who's deaf, trying to hear the snap count.
Yeah.
Never seen him when that fast to get when goes through the between tackle. And very pugnacious. Unfortunately, he was a lightweight. He didn't weigh more than 200 pounds, and he had, of course, a serious knee injury that curtailed his career.
Yeah, Michael. Here's the thing about Larry Brown. I mean, one of the greatest running backs in the history of this organization. He was the 1972 MVP of the league. He had a galloping style. Remember, it was like a big time stride, and he was a punishing runner as well. I don't see that as Bill's style. I don't, but it's only 5 games in, so time will tell. Let's go to Mike. Mike's calling in. Mike, thanks for holding. Go ahead. Who do you have as Bill's comp, current or historical?
My comp for Bill is the Denver Bronco version of Clinton Portis, the one that existed before Gibbs made him bulk up. Somewhat flat-footed, not Charlie Brown flat-footed, but a little flat-footed. Not the pass protector Portis was, but running style, the Denver Bronco version of Clinton Portis.
Man, that offense was built for Clinton Portis. And you talk about, a one-cut vision guy. And to your point, when he got here, got a bit bigger and stronger and was a punishing runner. And by the way, an all-around pass-protecting warrior on game day. But yeah, those early years in Denver, I mean, I'm looking at it right now because I want to see what the yards per average. He was over 5 yards each of the first 2 years in Denver, 5.5, 5.5 average yards per carry. Rookie of the year in 2002, offensive rookie of the year, Pro Bowler in his second year, 1,508 yards, 1,591 yards. And then he, had the 1,516 yards, which held until Alfred Morris broke that record. But it was at 4.3 yards per carry, a lot more carries. Yeah, Gibbs ran them a lot more than Mike did in Denver. That's for sure. Let's go to Reggie. Reggie, who's your comp for Bill?
Thank you, Kevin. I was hoping you got to me. I can't believe y'all historians, man. Y'all running back aficionados. It's Le'Veon Bell. When I was on hold, right, I pulled up Le'Veon Bell and I pulled up Jacory. He had a run against the Chargers where he made 3 jump cuts before he got to the line. He
I know.
Cut left. He jump cut right and then jump cut left as he's going through. The only running back, and Kevin, you know this. Normally they teach you, and especially in Shanahan's, is one cut and you go. Ain't none of that playing back there. It's not like he's playing anyway. But most of the running backs, again, they cut and they gone. Kevin, he made 3 jump cuts before he got to the line of scrimmage. That's okay.
I know.
Maybe
I don't see that. Why do you think that's Bill? I don't see. I don't like what G said about Barry Sanders, that there really isn't a comp for Barry Sanders. I'm not sure there's actually a comp for Le'Veon Bell. He had one of the most unique running styles in NFL history. Like you just said,
But I
before he
agree with
even
you.
got to the line of scrimmage, there were three different
hold on, but
cuts,
Kevin,
and the patience.
you don't see that with Bill? You didn't see that?
No, I
Sunday?
don't see that level of patience. No, that was almost to the point where it's like, what are you doing, dude? It go forward, but he would wait
Kevin,
behind the line of scrimmage.
Maybe I'm looking at it right. Maybe I'm looking. I've never seen a running back. Now, again, in DC, I haven't seen it. Again, I go back. I haven't seen a running back. Again, that move, he made 3. The only person running back that I normally see make those type of multiple jump cuts was Le'Veon. I haven't seen the dude made 3, Kevin. 3.
I know.
He like 7 yards.
He was the best, or when you find the highlights of Roethlisberger handing him the ball, and he just stands there. He stands there and doesn't move for like a full second sometimes. And then you're like, he was just waiting for things to develop.
Yeah, but take that out the equation. When he does get the ball, it's not like he's running straight ahead.
No, he was a punishing back, though. That's why the other part about Le'Veon Bell, he was a punishing back. That's not Bill.
He was 6'1", 220. Yeah. I know, not punishing, but I'm just talking to like when behind the line of scrimmage. Like again, I don't. Maybe you would know this because you looked at the R22. The one that he cut to the outside was that, and I think I did see Biada. So I'm assuming the play was designed to go there, right? The one that he
hold on. I'll pull it up. Yeah, the first touchdown, 15 yards. Yeah. I don't know what the design was, but man, he read it quickly and he got to the outside, and that thing was sealed. So maybe that was the plan on that run.
Kevin, you know what? My last thought. Maybe there's no comp for this kid right now.
Maybe what? I'm sorry.
Maybe there's no comp for Bill right now. Maybe
okay,
what we're seeing.
All right, let's put the brakes on. I mean, we're comparing him to some.
No. Hear me out, Kevin. I'm not saying that oh my gosh, he's doing something just like. But think about
there's nothing unique. He's just a very good vision runner that seems like, because of his vision and his cutting ability, would be perfect for more of a zone run scheme, offense. And I think he'd be great in that. But they run some zone. They run duo. They run, they run a lot of stuff. A lot of zone read. And let's not forget something here, okay? This is really important. When you play 11-on-11 football because your quarterback is a run threat, everybody benefits from that. And Krosky Merritt is benefiting big time from that, as is Rodriguez and as will McNichols and everybody else. When you've got a Lamar Jackson or a Jaden Daniels at quarterback, running backs benefit big time. I'm not trying to knock him because I think he's really good. I do. And I think he'd be really good with a quarterback that was, immobile and not a running threat. But everybody benefits from Jaden's dual threat ability. All right, I got to get to a break. All of you that I missed, we may come back to this. In fact, we're going to come back to this at some point. So I know everybody's busy and you've got other things to do, but I've got a guest coming up and I need to get to that. And we're going to ask Nick Ackridge for a comp on Bill. All of our NFL talk, by the way, presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Nick Ackridge next. We'll get back to callers. I left a lot of you on, and there were some really good comps that I wanted to get to. So we'll come back to this at some point during the show. But joining me right now from Pro Football Focus is Nick Ackridge at PFF_Nick Ackridge on X on Twitter. Nick is a senior data analyst for PFF. More importantly, he is a huge Washington fan, and whether he has the responsibility of grading them for PFF on a week in, week out basis or not, he ends up watching that game very closely, both live and after the fact. So let me just start with, who did you end up grading this past week? What game?
I had the Cowboys and Jets early 1 o'clock game. I don't usually grade 4 o'clock games. So whenever the Commanders are playing 4 o'clock or later, I'm typically not going to be grading that game. But like you said, I am going back and rewatching it pretty thoroughly.
By the way, real quickly on that Jet Cowboy game, the Jets, like I watched the beginning of that game, and basically Breece Hall and anybody else was averaging like 8 yards a carry. And then they dropped Justin Fields back for some unknown reason. Let me just tell you why I was watching it. I had the Jets in the game, which was the wrong side. But the thing that I came away from that game thinking, and I forget what you thought of Justin Fields, I actually thought coming out he had a chance. I kind of liked Justin Fields for today's NFL. He just doesn't see it, does he, as a passer?
No, he's just kind of constantly a tick slow. I was a fan of his coming out as well. I thought that he would be a really good player in the NFL. It's just not clicking, and we've kind of really seen enough at this point to know that it's just really not going to happen for him. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I think he's a tremendous athlete, and he's going to add value wherever he goes as a solid backup and a real running threat. But in terms of starting quarterback, if you're kind of hitching your wagon to Fields, it's not going to go too well.
Do you think, by the way, Nick, that we really do know for sure, given what, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold putting on an epic performance the other day? I mean, 3-4 years ago, these guys were basically done in everybody's mind. We've gone through that with so many other quarterbacks. It's a position where it's hard, based on what we see, to give up on guys because it's a mental maturity, learn how to play the position, situation. So is there something where you can kind of rule out somebody at 25, 26, 27 years old?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I would have certainly ruled out some of the guys you just mentioned there. And, it does kind of always take that one kind of coach for some of these guys to really have it click. But, for some of these guys, it's a bit different than what I'm seeing with Fields. Fields, like I kind of mentioned, is just everything's a little bit slow right now for him to kind of process stuff. These other guys, that really wasn't their problem.
It was the problem with Sam Darnold. It was the problem with Darnold, didn't you think?
A little bit, but his problem also was just too many erratic plays as well. Fields doesn't really have that erratic play style. He's just, everything is super, super conservative, and then it just doesn't lead to any sort of passing offense. So that's kind of my one little sticking point there with Fields. But yeah, no, you can never rule anybody out with the way Darnold's come back. Geno Smith, other than this year, that's kind of a completely different.
I mean, are we going to be saying this about Daniel Jones at the end of this year?
Yeah, he's another one that you can talk about. I mean, for Daniel Jones, though, I kind of always thought that he was. People are a little
that
too
he didn't
harsh on him
stink.
I didn't think he was great, but I didn't think he was, a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL. I thought he was always kind of in that mid to below average range. And now you get him on a team with a really great rushing attack, some weapons around him, and he's looking great.
Is there a guy out there that we've kind of thrown in the towel on that you think we shouldn't have? I mean, by the way, Mac Jones, we haven't even mentioned Mac Jones. And I'm thinking of like a guy like a Trey Lance, maybe an even younger player, although he is in the Fields draft. Is there a guy that you're like, don't throw in the towel on him quite yet?
Yeah, I think for me, it's Anthony Richardson. I can't quit him. I just can't do it. Coming out of the draft, I was a huge fan of him. And I think for him, he is just so inexperienced in the amount of football that he has played. Right. And throwing him in right away and just kind of expecting him to figure it out was just never really going to work. I don't think the Colts did a great job of setting him up for success. I think there's still a chance for him because he does all of the stuff, the quarterbacking stuff really well. Like he is in my opinion, I thought he was a great processor coming out of college for someone who only played like one season in college. He does all of the little things really well in terms of managing pockets and stuff like that. And obviously the arm talent is kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, I think he's kind of the one guy that I can't quit right now.
I agree with that. God, I agree with that. Like there's just something, there was a game that they played against Utah early in the year, 2 years ago. And I'm like, that guy may be raw and he may be a long way off, but he has some of the most amazing physical gifts I've ever seen. You know, in talking about Daniel Jones too, when you talk about like the coaching, like having a guy like David Cutcliffe in college, right? I mean, and now getting a Shane Steichen. I mean, I think Brian Dable did a decent job with him in that 1 year, and then maybe he just lost confidence. But God, the right coach. Look at, you mentioned it. I mean, Darnold ends up with Kyle and then Kevin O'Connell. All right, Baker ends up with just a very short stint with Sean McVay, and it's like it turned their careers around.
Yeah, it just takes that one guy to kind of figure out what they do well, and we've seen it with these same coaches over and over again. They kind of know how to develop quarterbacks, and it just kind of works with these guys over and over again, and that's really kind of what some of these guys need is that kind of right person to understand what he does well and just kind of put him in that best situation.
Talking with Nick Ackridge from Pro Football Focus. By the way, just sticking with the quarterback in the league conversation right now, Cowboy fans want all of us to believe that Dak Prescott is the legitimate MVP frontrunner right now. Do you agree with that?
I don't know if I'd put him as MVP frontrunner. I do think that he was playing and is playing fantastic football. I think he's playing some of the best quarterback play in the NFL. I just think that MVP-wise, you have to have a very good team, and I just don't think that their team is good enough. Now, that kind of just comes down to the conversation of what you really think MVP is. For me, I just kind of like to put it as the best quarterback on the best team. You can argue that he is the most valuable, and he is, keeping them afloat with how well he's playing. But I think Dak has always been a fantastic quarterback. As much as it pains me to say that, I think he's consistently one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think he's up there again this year.
Who would you rather have right now quarterbacking Tampa, Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield?
Oh, that is tough. I just wrote an article on Baker Mayfield's game this past Sunday, and he was fantastic. It was one of the best performances in the second half I've ever seen. He wasn't missing. I think right now I would lean Baker, but I think they're kind of both in that same sort of tier of just not with kind of those top four guys, but kind of in that next group below where you can kind of argue they're, 6 to 12 or 6 to 10 sort of range. But I think I would lean Baker.
Sticking with the league and quarterbacks, because I'm just thinking about a lot of things from this past weekend. We go back to the 24 draft, and there is a lot of promise now for several of them, including, Caleb's last two games. But what do you think of Bo Nix so far? Is that just a Sean Payton creation, or could he be this elsewhere?
I think with Bo Nix, and something I kind of talked about with him pre-draft, is I think what he is right now as a quarterback is what he's going to be. I think with these type of players that play a lot of college football, there's not much more room for growth. I think he is kind of just an adequate starting quarterback. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's great. And I just think he's kind of adequate, and he's in an offense that it just kind of fits perfectly for him and what Sean Payton wants to do. So that's kind of where I think Bo Nix is. He's a good enough starting quarterback to win you games, but he's not going to be the type of quarterback that can elevate your team to that next level and kind of honestly really compete for Super Bowls.
Do you think Carson Wentz has played well enough in the two games over in Europe for Minnesota to keep J.J. McCarthy on the bench when he's healthy?
No, I don't think so. It's the typical Carson Wentz experience. We obviously have all gone through it where he shows flashes of incredible play, but then there's just some absolutely just mind-numbing stuff with what he does in the pocket and how he always believes that he can break every single tackle and make every single throw. That seemingly has not really changed in his mind. So I think they still have to go with JJ, because I don't think you're winning anything with Carson. So you have to see what you have with JJ McCarthy. Even if Carson plays an incredible game next week, I still think that you have to go back to McCarthy, because, like I said, I just don't see them really competing with Carson Wentz as a quarterback.
Yeah, he makes some throws every once in a while, and you're like, wow, that's the guy that until he broke his leg in the Coliseum was a legitimate MVP, front runner with the Eagles. And then he takes sacks and he puts balls up for grabs, and you're like, he can't do it. When we look back, right now, this is a year and 5 games in to the second year, but let's move ahead to 10 years from now. How will the quarterbacks flush out in terms of their careers, the 6 that were taken in the first round, 2024?
I think all the first 3, Jaden, Caleb, and Drake, I think those 3 are going to be your top echelon of quarterbacks. I still do believe with Caleb, I think that last year was so bad in terms of what was around him that you kind of almost have to write it off. This year, I think he's been playing some really good football. Even when they were going 0-2, I thought he was really good. Drake May is finally kind of, making a name for himself. But I thought even prior to Sunday night, he was playing some really, really good football. And we obviously know that Jaden has already kind of proven himself as one of those best quarterbacks. So I think those 3 are kind of up there. I think Penix, for me, it's too early to kind of say what he's going to be. I kind of see him in that same sort of Bo Nix territory where I think they're going to be adequate starting quarterbacks, but I don't know if they're going to really take that next step. And then for JJ, I mean, that one is just really at this point, it's just a complete projection. I think coming out, I was kind of high on him. I didn't have him close to the top 3 guys, but I had him 4th right behind him. But he's played just so little football right now that it's tough for me to say that he's going to be up there. But I think if you're looking for best case scenario for JJ McCarthy, I think you're looking at a Jared Goff type player where you put him in a system that is, just a great offensive play caller, great offensive system, and he's always going to get the ball to where it needs to be. That's kind of, I think, what the ceiling is for JJ McCarthy. And so I would have the top 3 guys that were taken. I think they're going to all be elite quarterbacks. I kind of said that coming out of the draft, and I think that's the same. And those next 3 are going to be your kind of adequate starters, which for one draft class is kind of incredible.
Are you buying into, from that draft, by the way, but you got to go to the 5th round, are you buying into Spencer Rattler as a potential, starter in this league?
Yeah, I am. I think coming out, Rattler was kind of a guy that I was close to putting kind of close to Bo Nix and Penix in my rankings, just because he's not a similar sort of quarterback, but in terms of the boom bust potential, it was kind of massive for him, because I think his talent is really kind of up there with all of them, really. And it was just for him kind of just limiting some of the erratic plays. And he's been playing some pretty solid football for the Saints. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he turns into an adequate starter. Again, I don't think he's ever going to reach that top tier, but I think he can really carve out a decent career for himself in New Orleans.
Yeah, watching him, he really is talented. The issue with him coming out was all of the intangible stuff. I mean, the stories about him at Elite 11 and various other places. I mean, people didn't want to touch this dude, but he can sling it, and he can move around and make things happen. I've been impressed with him. All right, let's talk about our team. Big picture through 5 games, 3-2. They've beaten 3 teams that have been banged up. 2 of those 3 really weren't good teams and aren't good teams. They lost 2 others, one without, 2 without their starting, one without their starting quarterback in Atlanta. What do you make of this team right now? Like, how do you project the season going based on the first 5?
I think it's going to kind of go similar to the first 5. I think it's going to be a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and they're going to kind of hover around that 500 the rest of the year. I just think that this defense right now is it's just so unreliable week to week that really the kind of best way to predict how they're going to perform is whether or not the other team's offensive line is good or bad. Yeah. And that's kind of how it's been every single week, that if they play a bad offensive line, the defensive line is going to be great, and it'll mask all the problems in the secondary. And if they can't get pressure, the secondary is going to get exposed. And we've kind of seen that. I don't know if that's going to get fixed throughout the course of the season. And you're just going to have to really hope in those games where they can't get pressure that the offense just scores more than them. And they almost did that with the Falcons. I thought Mariota played great in that game, but when your defense is giving up a score on almost every single possession, it's pretty tough. So that's kind of where I see this team heading. It's where there's going to be a lot of shootouts, and you just got to hope that Jaden Daniels is playing his best game.
So I kind of see it the same way, and I look back at last year and say, well, we had the same issues. You know, the offense essentially had to carry the team and win games despite a defense that wasn't very good. But this year, and I'm curious if you agree with this, and if not, you know, let me know what you think. And that is, the difference defensively this year is actually they're not terrible against the run. They can't cover, and they need pass rush to mask that. A, do you agree with that? B, which is worse defensively, to be terrible against the run and okay in pass coverage, or vice versa?
That's a good question. I do agree that their run defense has been much, much better. I think it's last year their run defense was just kind of pray that Bobby Wagner can make a play. This year it's been a lot better up front. I think that Kinlaw, who I was kind of down on that signing, I think he's been fantastic in the run game. Deron Payne's kind of been pretty good there. For them, it's just in the run game and really everything. It's just finishing the play. It's just making the tackles. I think they've constantly put themselves in good positions to make a play. They're just missing a lot of tackles right now. But as for what would it rather, I think being bad in the run game, I would rather take that than being this bad in coverage, because the explosive plays they're just backbreaking right now. And even when you get a team in second and long, third and long, there's always the potential for the first down on that play. And that's kind of what's killing this defense right now. So I would take a bad run defense over a bad coverage team.
How did Jaden play Sunday per PFF?
Yeah, he was their highest graded player, offense and defense, 85.9 overall grade. I was pretty. That's kind of what I was expecting for his grade. I think it was a slow start, as we all saw, and that kind of won that 3rd and 16 throw that he hit just kind of turned everything around for him, and I thought he was fantastic after that. There's still some kind of accuracy concerns with me. He was missing a lot of throws, and not missing them like inaccuracy, but he was just kind of slightly off, a little behind, a little overthrown, a little in front. He was actually, we chart ball placement for every quarterback, and he was the lowest accuracy or lowest rated accurate quarterback this week with his ball placement. So that's kind of the one thing that has been scaring me recently. But I thought the rest of his game was fantastic. The deep ball was great, and I thought he was just doing a great job.
How lucky are they that they've had Deebo Samuel this year?
Yeah, he's kind of been everything that they've asked for. I think he's been fantastic in the screen game as a runner. Even in the pass game, I thought he's been great. He's kind of the perfect piece for this Cliff Kingsbury offense. You saw that they kind of wanted to do some of this stuff last year with Austin Eckler, and it just wasn't really the same. But having someone like Deebo Samuel in the backfield, and that can also line up out wide, and you have to legitimately respect what he's going to do. I think he's just a perfect fit for this offense.
All right. I'm going to ask you what I asked callers for basically the first hour of the show. Do you have a comp for Bill Krosky-Merritt? Historical, current, doesn't matter. Who comes to mind when you watch him run?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot. I'm typically pretty bad with comps. But someone that I can't stop thinking of is Alvin Kamara, with just the way he runs. I think Kamara, what makes him and made him so great is his contact balance and his agility, and he never goes down, and that's kind of what speaks to his contact balance. That first guy is never going to make him go to the ground, and that's kind of what I've been seeing with Bill so far, is the way he's able to cut, the contact balance, and never going down on that first tackle. That's kind of where I would put him as a runner. I don't think he's as good as a receiver. And then comping him to Kamara might be a little too much too early, but that's kind of the play style that I see.
It's interesting. You've joined, I don't know, at least, based on social media response and calls, at least a dozen to 2 dozen people who have said Alvin Kamara. For me, I'm like, I don't see that, and maybe what's throwing me off is Alvin Kamara's, caught 80-plus balls a year. He's been more of a Warwick Dunn, Marshall Faulk kind of back than a pure runner, and I see Bill as more of a pure lead running back. Now, that's different than running style, and I acknowledge that. I don't know. Kamara, you're right. The shiftiness, the balance, it's a good word, along with great vision and cutting ability. I also see him more as more of a darter. He darts in and out, where Bill is a little bit more upright and, great vision, great feel. You've joined a lot of people. I don't see that comp, but you have clearly joined many people that see it that way. All right. What else was I going to ask you? Defensively, who's been – give me the top 3 defensive players through 5 games.
Through 5 games. Give me a second here. I got to pull that up.
Because Armstrong, to me, just through 5 games, has been their best all-around defensive player. Has he graded out that way?
Yeah, right now we've got Bobby Wagner first. Bobby Wagner in the run game, I think he's still the highest rated linebacker in the run game. The coverage has been a massive problem, which is kind of dragging that grade down. Dorrance Armstrong is second, 77.9 overall. Jerron Payne third. Jacob Martin fourth. Javon Kinlaw fifth. Eddie Goldman sixth. So those are kind of the guys that, again, it's that the defensive line really that has been playing the best football for them. And then you can kind of expect that the bottom 5 are pretty much all secondary players right now.
By the way, on Sunday, how did Jordan McGee grade out? Just, it was 12 snaps, I think.
Yeah, 59.6 is what we had.
Okay. So that's
biggest
average.
problem with him was missed tackles. Yeah. It's going to be tough to kind of get anything over 60 when you're playing 12 snaps. So biggest thing for him was a couple missed tackles that's going to bring that grade down. But I think the rest was pretty solid. I liked what I saw in the very, very limited snaps that he played.
Thanks for doing this. As always, hope you're well. We'll do it again soon.
Yep, appreciate it. Have a good one.
Nick Ackridge, everybody from Pro Football Focus, senior data analyst and a huge Skins fan at PFF_Nick Ackridge. Some of that quarterback conversation is really interesting, isn't it? I mean, seriously, what do we really know about these young guys at this point? I mean, you just have way too many that you count out in year 3, year 4, year 5. And here they are in year 7, year 8, and they are coming into their own. And nothing reflects that more than the unbelievable performance put on by Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold in a 38-35, probably best football game of the year in the NFL on Sunday. 2 guys that basically were done. I mean, done. They played on the same team briefly in Carolina back in 2022, where everybody was like, yeah, they have been sent off to the hinterlands. There is no chance their careers are over. And remember, for Baker Mayfield, it was a Thursday night game in 2022 where the Rams were down a bunch of quarterbacks. They were playing the Raiders. And McVay pulled Baker Mayfield basically out of unemployment for the most part at that point and said, here are the plays I need you to play in this game. And he did, and he played well, and that led to an opportunity in Tampa, and the rest is history. Sam Darnold, kind of same thing, in that Carolina situation there for a year after, it didn't work out with the Jets, and then he signs in San Francisco. He backs up Brock Purdy in 2023, but he learns under Kyle Shanahan. And then Kyle says, actually, Kevin O'Connell, we're keeping Brock, but Sam Darnold can play. And he has that year that he had last year, 35 touchdowns, whatever it was, 4,500 yards. And they don't even keep him. They send him, let him hit free agency because they drafted J.J. McCarthy, and he's off to an incredible start in Seattle. Speaking of that game and others, we really didn't have a chance to kind of go around the entire league and talk about some of the games on the show yesterday. We'll go back to Sunday. We'll go back to last night. I mean, just some great games around the league, around the NFL when we return. Also want to let you know that, IHOP has a very interesting opportunity. They're introducing the IHOP value menu where all your breakfast favorites are just $6 each every day. Where else can you get a big, filling, sit-down breakfast for only $6? Well, go to your Happy Plates with this $6 IHOP value menu available every day at IHOP, $7 in some locations.
The biggest plays and clutch moments.
Oh, look out! Touchdown! A miracle!
It's time to go around the NFL.
Prescott loads up. Pickens, hand fighting into the end zone. Touchdown!
43-yard pass in that game to Pickens. Also that one for a touchdown. Dallas rolled the Jets 37-22. The game was really never in doubt. They led 30-3 in this game, ended up 37-22, and Cowboy fans are ecstatic with Dak Prescott's season so far. Dak, 10 touchdowns, 3 picks, 1,356 yards, and he's completing passes at a 71.3% rate. The wins for the Cowboys are over the Giants and the Jets. I'll just, reiterate that. Giants in overtime, 40-37, and the Jets, 37-22. They did tie Green Bay, and Dak was phenomenal in the game. So, we're going to go around the NFL and touch on some of the games that we didn't touch on yesterday, and we're going to finish with the Tennessee-Arizona game, because there was a lot in that game that was almost made it truly one of the wildest, craziest, kookiest games we've seen in a long time. And there's a big question to be asked at the end of that game and something that happened yesterday. But we want to touch on some of the games that we didn't talk about. And I'm wondering if there's any reason to take Dallas seriously. I mean, they're good on offense. They're good on offense. I mean, they did this with 4 offensive linemen, like the Chargers situation, missing, and they destroyed the Jets. Not only did Dak Prescott throw for 4 touchdowns, no picks, they rushed for 180 yards in the game. $180. Javonte Williams is having himself a season through 5 games now, 447 yards, 5.7 yards per carry. No CD Lamb, no problem. Ryan Flournoy, have you heard of him? Southeast Missouri, 6th round pick in 2024. On Sunday against the Jets, Ryan Flournoy, number 19. I thought it was Miles Austin that had come back. 6 catches, 114 yards. The tight end Ferguson's become a weapon with Dak. Pickens is coming into his own. Kevontae Turpin obviously is a threat, all over the place. By the way, Brandon Aubrey missed a point after the other day. He missed an extra point. It didn't seem possible. They worked Jaden Blue, the rookie out of Texas, into the lineup for the first time. I'm wondering, what are the Cowboys? These NFL seasons early on, things change. They don't have a lot of talent defensively, that's for sure. And it does seem like they can't get off the field enough to be a legitimate threat. But in today's NFL, could they win 9 games and be a threat to be a wild card team with, the top offense in the NFL, if you want to view it that way? I don't think I view it as the top offense in the NFL. I think statistically right now, I think they are at the top, in things like yards per game. They're averaging 406 yards per game. That's the number 1 average yards per game offense in the NFL. In terms of DVOA, Dallas is 5th in offense per DVOA. Buffalo, the Rams, Indy, and Detroit are all better DVOA metric offenses. I think Detroit's offense might be the best in the league. I think the Rams are up there. I think Indy might be up there, as crazy as that sounds. And we're probably forgetting a team or two. I think Washington's going to move up the ranks. They are 11th currently per DVOA in overall offense. Last year, I think they finished 5th or 6th in the league offensively. So, yeah, Dallas is interesting because they've gotten themselves to 2-2-1. Certainly could have won the Green Bay game. They could have won the Philadelphia game in the opener. They have the Panthers this week. If you're a Dallas fan, this is a tricky game and a dangerous game, which I thought the Jets game was too. By the way, did you know, Max, the Jets went from +2.5, +3 on Friday to favored
I watched
by
the
a
line.
1.5 at kickoff.
It was a lot of sharp movement, man. It was wild.
I was on the Jets. That probably helped move the line. I'm kidding, of course.
I think you're right.
The Jets line had so much sharp money on them because they just thought the Jets could run the football, control the clock, and win the game against Dallas's defense. They're going to say the same thing about Carolina. The Cowboys are only a 3.5-point favorite over the Panthers right now. Panthers have won 2 of their last 3. So they've played better. Now they're 2 wins, Falcons and Dolphins. I think the Falcons win's an impressive win. Dangerous game, but I'm going to tell you this, man, for the Cowboys. If they can beat Carolina to get to 3-2-1, they're going to have a home game the following week against us, against Washington. 4:25 Fox. It'll be the Burkhardt Brady game. I'm certainly assuming that it will be. What else is on that day? Let's see. Washington at Dallas. It's 4:25 on Fox. Green Bay at Arizona is the other game. So, yes, it's going to be the Burkhardt. We're going to get Burkhardt and Brady a bunch because I know Detroit comes to town for a 4:25 game as well. And that becomes, Washington win or lose. But if they win and they're 4-2 and they're playing 3-2-1 Dallas, with the Cowboys having won 2 straight and the other game being a tie against the Packers, it's going to feel like a big spot early in the season. Is that an exaggeration? For the Cowboys, Dallas, if they can beat Carolina and then get Washington at home and win that game, they'd be 4-2-1. Let me just tell you, they have the Cardinals on the schedule. They've got the Raiders on the schedule. They've got the Giants still, one more time. They also have the Chiefs, Eagles, Washington twice, the Lions. It's not easy. The Broncos they have to face. Are the Cowboys worth paying attention to in terms of being a team that could be a sneaky contender for a wild card spot or even the division? I don't think so.
They got a lot to work out on defense. That secondary
That's the issue.
That
but
secondary looks worse than ours,
about
and
our
that's saying
team?
something. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, but I do think that our front 7 is a little bit better. Just with, you have a player coach in Bobby Wagner on the field, and that's always going to put you kind of a step above, at least for me.
I'll tell you what, right now, I can call this. A week from Sunday, Washington at Dallas, the total in that game is going to be in the low to mid-50s. It'll be one of the highest over-under numbers of the season. All right, Dallas, looking good offensively as a team that's not even healthy offensively. They've now been very good offensively in 2 straight games without starting offensive linemen, and CeeDee Lamb missing. Let's go to Baltimore for the Ravens disaster Sunday.
Establish some of that run identity. And it is a run to Nick Chubb. Chubb could go all the way and does. Touchdown, Texans.
Remember when we were talking all off season and I'm like, Chubb, Dobbins, why not? Well, I wasn't counting on Krosky Merritt to be what he's become, but both Dobbins and Chubb, Dobbins is really having a season in Denver, and Nick Chubb certainly had moments for the Houston Texans. In that game, by the way, Chubb, that was a 27-yard touchdown run, 11 carries, 61 yards. The Ravens, good God, this is bad. They are 1-4 with the Rams coming to town. And they have given up 41, 38, 37, and 44. The Ravens, through 5 games, have allowed 177 points. That's insane. They are giving up basically 35 plus a game. They've got major injury issues. But at some point, don't you just say, this is the NFL, man. It's next man up. I know that's cliche, but look at the Cowboys, what they've been able to do. Look at our team with injuries. And at some point, maybe you look at it and say something's going on there. Now, Lamar getting back this week would be huge. They have a bye week after this Rams game. And then they've got the Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals. I mean, they've got a good stretch of games that with Lamar healthy, if I'm Baltimore and it's a hamstring injury, I'm sitting Lamar and just taking the L against the Rams, doing my best. And then coming back after the break as a 1-5 team. I mentioned this yesterday, but right now in the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens are co-favorites to win the division. Pittsburgh's 3-1, Baltimore's 1-4, probably heading to 1-5. And the reason being is Baltimore out of that bye has a very easy schedule, and they still have the Steelers twice. So there's and Cincinnati and Cleveland, you can basically count them completely out. They're not going to contend in that division unless Burrow comes back much sooner than expected. But man, I can't remember the last time we have said about the Ravens, they're a bad football team right now. When's the last time? Been years. The Rams are 8-point favorites at M&T Bank on Sunday. 8-point favorites. By the way, the last time the Rams and Ravens played at M&T Bank, it was a few years ago. It was a crazy, crazy game. And the Rams are coming off the mini bye, having played Thursday night in that devastating loss to the 49ers. Yeah, we'll see. Cooper Rush, by the way, the quarterback. And I would not count the Texans out of anything. I think we talked about this last week in our NFL buy and sell. And I said the Texans are too good on defense. Way too good on defense to count out. And this win, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And they got the Ravens on the road at the right time. I think the Texans are still a good football team. I mean, Indy's jumped out to that lead in the AFC South with Jacksonville. The two of them are 4-1. Houston's sitting there at 2-3. But they haven't played. They haven't played Indy yet. They still have 2 with the Colts left, and they still have another game against Jacksonville at home. I would not count the Texans out in that division. We'll finish up with some more NFL talk when we come back. I want to end with what happened in Arizona, including the play in which the running back dropped the ball and lost a touchdown that would have put the game away, the coach's reaction on the sideline to it, and then the coach's apology. A lot there to talk about. All of our NFL talk presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today.
All right. It is Tuesday, October 7th. It is, like I said, Tuesday. We start off with a Monday Night Football recap. An absolutely electric Monday Night Football game last night between the Chiefs and Jaguars, who won on a broken play where Trevor Lawrence got tripped by his own offensive lineman and scrambled in for the touchdown. The Jags win 31-28. To baseball, the Dodgers, they hold off the Phillies as they attempt a late-game comeback, scoring 3 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, but Roki Sasaki comes in for the final at-bat and escapes with the win. Dodgers now lead the series 2-0. The Brewers, they secure the win over the Chicago Cubs by a score of 7-3. The Cubs off to a hot start with a 3-run bomb from Seiya Suzuki, but the Brewers answer right back with a 3-run home run of their own from Andrew Vaughn. And from there on out, it was all Brewers with 2 more bombs from Wilson Contreras and Jackson Chorio. And the Brewers take a commanding 2-0 lead in the 5-game series. More postseason baseball on tap tonight. On the AL side, the Mariners take on the Tigers in a day game matchup at 4 p.m. Logan Gilbert taking the mound for the Mariners versus Detroit's Jack Flaherty in his series tied at 1 game apiece. Then we've got the Blue Jays going up against the New York Yankees. Shane Bieber on the mound for Toronto versus the Yankees' Carlos Rodon. First pitch for that one will be around 8 p.m. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type at the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
A little bit more from the NFL game on NFL card on Sunday. How about this one between the Rams and the Colts?
For Shane Steichen and this Colt team. And there he goes, Jonathan Taylor, his third touchdown today.
How about the season Jonathan Taylor is having? On the day, 3 more rushing touchdowns for him. He's got 6 on the season. He's rushed for 480 yards, and he's actually being benched at the end of these games for other running backs because they've hammered people this year. 33-8, the opener over the Dolphins, 41-20 over the Titans, and 40-6 over the Raiders. A beatdown, which really does kind of reflect what the Raiders are. Washington hammered them in the same way. Right now, the Indianapolis Colts, in terms of just an offensive juggernaut, they are averaging 32.6 points per game, second in the league to the Detroit Lions, who are averaging 34.8 points per game. The Colts are really rolling right now. Now, you can look at it and say Dolphins, Titans, Raiders among the wins. They did beat Denver, and they probably shouldn't have beaten Denver. They had a missed field goal at the end. Denver had a penalty on the missed field goal. They got another opportunity, and they made the kick to go to win that game 29-28. That could be, this is typical of the NFL, right? Through week 5, that week 2 Indy-Denver game that nobody cared about and thought, 2 bad teams playing against each other could ultimately decide something from a playoff standpoint when we get to January. But the Colts are rolling, and Daniel Jones is playing at a high level. The rookie Tyler Warren at tight end playing at a very high level. This is a good football team and a talented football team that just needed some stability at quarterback, and it looks like Daniel Jones has given that to them. Let's go to Cincinnati for the Lions and the Bengals.
But it was a tough start, but that last drive, oh boy.
And a safety sack by Derek Barnes, and that'll end the hope.
Yeah, that'll end the hope of a backdoor cover, that's for sure, because the Bengals scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when the game was basically over at 28-3. The Bengals are a mess, man. You talk about a valuable player in this league. Joe Burrow is a valuable player in this league, but it's fun to watch the Lions these days. They're good on both sides of the ball. They have so many weapons. And they just have a quarterback that just throws and completes almost every single ball if you give him time in that scheme. And Johnny Morton, as the replacement OC for Ben Johnson, is doing a great job. And they are healthy defensively and good. I think right now, if I were to pick the NFC champion, it would be Detroit. I think they're the most complete team in the NFC, with a level of explosiveness offensively that I think you have to have, that they had last year, that they appear to have this year. They play on Sunday night at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Those would be the 2 and 3 Chiefs after last night's game. All right, I want to finish up with this. Tennessee and Arizona on Sunday. Probably the least attractive game on the board, but how about this play in the fourth quarter?
Clock running inside of 5 minutes. Ward goes through his progressions. Everyone covered, slings it back. It's deflected and picked. Taylor Demerson, and then the football came out. Who recovers? Tennessee for the touchdown in a crazy sequence.
So what happened is the ball was tipped and picked off. Cam Ward's pass was. And then the defender who intercepted the pass, Taylor Demerson, got up, and as he started to run, fumbled the football. Then it got kicked around, and Tyler Lockett landed on it in the end zone for a Tennessee touchdown. Now, okay, all's fine. The lead was 21-6. Now it's 21-12. Now it's 21-19 after that play. They kicked. They were down 21-12. They had to kick the extra point after Joey Sly had missed the extra point before. But a play earlier in the game at 21-3 Arizona early in the fourth quarter, running back Amari DiMercato broke a long, what was going to turn into a 71-yard touchdown and a 28-3 Cardinals lead. Game over. And he did the thing that players continue to do. The kid Mitchell did it last week in Indianapolis. It's beyond me. I know it's beyond many of you why players continue to not carry the ball over the plane of the goal line. Not just over breaking the plane of the goal line with possession of the ball. But at this point, given all of these plays, it really started with Deshaun Jackson years ago when he did it for the first time. And we see this, it goes viral. We see it on every highlight show. There's no way that these guys don't know about this at this point. It's a decade-long thing, at least a decade-long thing. It happens in every level of football. Are these players just stupid? I don't think they're stupid. Is there some sort of lack of spatial awareness, like where they are on the field? The coaching point is really simple. Do not let go of the football until you see that you are in the back of the end zone. And then I want you to turn and I want you to bring the football to the referee, and the referee that's got his arms up in the air signaling touchdown, and then hand him the football. That's the way we're going to do it from now on to avoid this. It has truly become an embarrassing thing because the players that do it, because it's happened so much, they are called selfish. They are called stupid. They are called numb. They're called antagonistic in some cases because, they're just trying to create a meme or they're trying to go viral. I don't think that's what's really happening. I think they just think it's cool to kind of drop the ball when they've barely reached the end zone. Except that it's not really cool because it costs people jobs, costs games, and costs people jobs. It can't happen. If you're a coach, you're definitely showing the play from last week, the Indianapolis player. It cost them the game against the Rams. It costs Arizona the game against the Titans. You got to see this, right? Aren't the coaches in their auditorium big team meetings early in the week putting that up on the screen and saying, hey, guys, we've been watching this since Deshaun Jackson first did it back in 2011 or 2010. If anybody does it, unless you are invaluable to the team, we're going to cut you. You're going to lose your income from us. We're not paying you anymore. Whatever it is. Now, in this situation, Jonathan Gannon, the head coach for the Cardinals, was seen berating DiMercato on the sideline with one of his offensive linemen having his arms around him, consoling him. He obviously knew what he had done, and it was crushing to him. And not only did Gannon berate him, but Gannon put his hands on him, sort of elbowed him and then, kind of slapped on his way back to, the sideline from the bench area. And it led to Gannon apologizing for it. You're going to hear his apology when we come back. And from you, I want to hear whether or not you think the coach should have apologized for berating DiMercato, putting his hands on him to a certain extent. It wasn't Bobby Knight style, okay? Did he and was he required in that spot to apologize to the player publicly? 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, Team 980 and the team980.com. Jake Butt, who played tight end at Michigan for Jim Harbaugh for several years and is an excellent analyst on the Big Ten Network. He was in College Park on Saturday calling the Maryland-Washington game. We have not talked about the Terps blowing a 20-0 lead and losing to Washington, who scored 24 unanswered over the final 18 and a half minutes of the game. Crushing loss for Terp fans like me. Jake Butt was on the call. He'll be my guest later on this hour, and we'll get a chance to talk about the Maryland loss. Devastating loss for sure. All right, so the Tennessee, let me just make sure everybody understands. Tennessee came back and won that game. When Amari DiMarcado runs 71 yards, by the way, he slows down before he gets to the goal line, and then the ball starts to drop before he's crossed the goal line. It was actually very close. If you watch that play, it was close to a touchdown. But still, I mean, coaching point, hello, how many of these can we show? Ball stays in hand, tucked away, full speed over the goal line until you see the referee's hands up in the air signaling touchdown and a whistle blows ending the play. It just can't happen. Can it? It will. It'll continue to happen. And it really is, it leads to a lot of stereotypical comments about athletes and football players in particular and their intellect for sure. So after this play, Jonathan Gannon, the Arizona coach, and after they lost the game 21. By the way, it was still 28-3 in the moment. 21-3 in the moment. They then lost the game 22-21 with that crazy interception, fumble, and Tennessee touchdown. Cam Ward, just as an aside, led a very impressive game-winning drive. They needed a field goal, 11 plays, 71 yards in under 2 minutes. And they were able to send Joey Sly out for a 29-yard field goal to win it. Cam Ward, I think he's got some talent, man. It's been rough. They do not have a good team around him. That is for sure. But anyway, Jonathan Gannon, if you've seen it on social media, you've seen it. If you haven't, it's all over the place. There is an exchange between Gannon and DiMarcado where Gannon is ripping into him. He is incensed, as any head coach would be. But he legitimately puts his hands on him. There is a bit of a lean-in elbow, first of all, and as he berates him and then walks away, sort of swings the right part of his hand and elbow and seems to make contact with the player. The player's being embraced by one of their offensive linemen, clearly crushed and devastated after the play. Well, yesterday, Jonathan Gannon addressed the sideline berating of DiMarcado, and he said this.
I didn't see the video, David, but yeah, I actually I woke up this morning and didn't feel great about it, honestly. And so in the team meeting, I addressed it. I apologized to Omari, apologized to the team. And I just told him I kind of let the moment of what happened get the better of me there. Obviously, like I try to be emotionally stable and calm because my job is to solve problems when during a game and kind of lead the charge on that. So it's not really who I am, who I want to be. And I told the guys that today. So it's a mistake by me, and it's just like everybody in there. Everybody made some type of mistake yesterday, which is, culminates to why we didn't win the game, and we can't let it happen.
Happen again, and that was it. So my reaction to watching that apology, and I saw it early this morning, is number one, I don't know anything about Jonathan Gannon, honestly, other than he was in Philadelphia, like Shane Steichen was, and they both ended up getting head coaching jobs off of that Super Bowl season in which they lost the Super Bowl. I felt it to be very genuine, number one. Number two is, did he need to apologize? We've seen, coaches berate players many times for mistakes or for whatever. This was not a Bobby Knight choking out Neil Reed situation. The contact was minimal, but it was angry. It certainly appeared to be. The league could fine him, by the way, and apparently they are going to investigate the incident. But number one was, I think it came off for me as genuine. And I think what was really important about what he said is that he apologized to the team first. A lot of times you'll see, and I think it's a big mistake, when coaches or players, apologize, via social media or via media in general before they've actually apologized to the person or to the team. And he did that first and then made it aware publicly that he had done that. So, look, I tend to skew old school on a lot of this stuff, and I don't think there's enough discipline in a lot of these situations. But I will say this. Two things. Number one, that is an emotional moment where you can't put hands on somebody. Okay, you just can't anymore. It's first of all, a little bit surprised that maybe there wasn't a reaction to him by some of the other players or even by DeMarcado, but he was so devastated or appeared to be in the moment. The other thing is it may have made the head coach and the leader of the team feel good in the moment, but ultimately it was kind of a no-win situation because the player was despondent, appeared to be despondent on the sideline. And that's one of those where either you leave it alone or you address the player in the moment saying, it's a mistake. We got more game to play. It's 21-3. It's about the solution now, not about the blame. Let's figure out the solution. Get yourself together. You may be called on to participate in this game again. And then the teaching moment comes later, maybe not in the moment. I know that a lot of people are going to say he didn't need to apologize for that. That kid made the biggest bonehead, dumb play that players make in sports now. I think that play is at the top of the list of the dumbest things we see in sports. Dumb. And it's dumb because there have been hundreds at this point of teaching moments, pro, college, high school. There is plenty of, and there has been, there's no way DeMarcado or, the player last week, Mitchell in Indianapolis, there's no way they haven't sat in a meeting at this point as football players and not had a coach say, see this? Don't do it. It's costly. It costs you a touchdown. It costs the team a touchdown. It costs us an opportunity to win games. And by the way, at the professional level and at the college level, it costs people jobs. Arizona should be 3-2, and instead they're 2-3 and reeling with a situation in which a coach lost his mind and made contact with a player on the sideline. Can't happen, but it does. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Do you think Gannon needed to apologize for that? Or is it okay for a coach to lose his mind after presumably they have given these players multiple teaching moments about this? By the way, it was Mitchell last week, and there was another earlier in the season that we had dropping the ball before the goal line. It's the second time it's happened in the NFL this year. And it cost the Colts a win last week, and it cost ultimately the Cardinals a win on Sunday. 301-230-0980. I'm curious as to whether or not you think Jonathan Gannon needed to apologize. My answer to this is, yeah, certainly to his team. Whether or not he needed to go public with it or not, I don't know, maybe. But certainly to the player and to his team for putting hands on him. I don't think you have to apologize for losing your mind in the moment, even though you are the head coach, over something like that, especially off of last week, where I have to think every team in the league showed their team once again, Hey, guys, it happened again. Happened again last week. The Colts in a game against the Rams. Great football game. You know, the entire game, we're fighting our asses off. And Adonai Mitchell is off to a 75-yard touchdown, and he drops the ball, and it goes through the end zone for a touchback. 301-230-0980 if you want to weigh in. Did Jonathan Gannon, the Arizona head coach, need to apologize for the berating of the player, DeMarcado, on the sideline, and, yeah, putting hands on him? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. So everybody does credit Deshaun Jackson for starting this wave of dropping the football before crossing the end zone. It happened in 2008 against the Cowboys, but God, it's happened hundreds of times over the last 17 years. And every time it happens, the outrage is the same. Louis Riddick tweeted out, at this point, if you purposely drop the ball before going uncontested across the goal line, you deserve to be fined or cut or something. It's beyond stupid. And one tweet like that after another. It's so dumb. It's almost incredible to believe that it's happened so many times, twice in the last 2 weeks. Adonai Mitchell last week with the Colts cost them the game, and this turned the entire game around against the Titans on Sunday. In fact, I saw this stat. It would have put them up, not 28-3, I was wrong about that, 28-6 with 12 minutes and 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Teams up by 22 in the fourth quarter are 1,276-1 over the past 25 seasons, according to ESPN research. My God, how do they? That's some work, man. Got to find teams that are up 22 in the fourth quarter and what their records were. I'm assuming that's exactly up 22. I just had to sneeze. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, berated DeMarcado, the running back who did that on the sideline, and actually made contact with him. It was not, a physical putting his hands around the guy's neck or punching him. It was kind of a hard shoulder into the player, and then another kind of shoulder, elbow, forearm to him on the way out. He was incensed. Did he need to apologize? Yes or no? I think in this day and age, you got to apologize when you put hands on somebody. It is, I tend to kind of go and skew old school on discipline, but that made himself feel better. It was not in today's, I don't even say today's, at any point, really. The greatest leaders have empathy. They're the best leaders, the best CEOs. One of their strongest attributes for the best, empathy. And by the way, being able to read the room. In that particular situation, the player was crushed. He was being consoled. Is that the moment for that? It makes yourself feel better. Is it the right thing from a leadership standpoint? I'd say probably no. Doesn't mean you can't cut him or fine him or discipline him for doing one of the dumbest things we see in sports, no doubt. But in that moment, did he need to apologize? I think to the player and to his team. Did he need to make it public? I don't necessarily know if that was necessary, but he did. I did feel like it was genuine, and I did feel like there's no doubt that he did the right thing by doing it with the team first. How many times do you see guys do this, and it's like, well, they didn't even talk to the player yet? Let's start with Chris in Frederick. Chris, did Jonathan Gannon, the head coach of the Cardinals, need to apologize to Amari DeMarcado after berating him and making contact with him on the sideline?
Absolutely not. This is football, not the Boy Scouts. And he apologized for optics. He did that with passion, and he made his point. He did not need to issue an apology.
Yeah, I don't know if he apologized for optics. He didn't say that. I mean, that would have been a stupid apology, right? I'm apologizing for the way it looked. That's not what he did. He said, I woke up this morning and didn't feel great about the way I handled it. I was, I try to be emotionally stable and calm. My job is to solve problems during the game and lead the charge. So that's not really who I am. So that's not what he apologized for. That would have been, I'd have been ripping him had he apologized for the way it looked.
Well, that's why he apologized. It's for the image that he projected on the sideline. I'm not saying he apologized to him for the optics. He apologized for the optics, meaning how he was perceived by the public. But I think he did that
he says,
passion.
and I would tend to agree with you on this. He says that he didn't see the video, but he had to know that something was caught and it went viral. I just think the best leaders are also incredibly empathetic. It's been proven over time. There is a level of discipline that I'm totally in favor of, and letting that slide and making it not into a big deal would have been the wrong thing too. That is a major teaching moment at the very least. And part of the teaching may be to cut the player, to waive the player. And I don't have a problem with that, especially given that I guarantee you it was a teaching point after last week in every single NFL locker room and meeting this past week. Once again, a player did it last week. Hey, guys, what are we doing here? This is the dumbest thing. It makes you literally look like a moron and selfish. It's one or the other, sometimes both. Thanks, Chris. Billy and Chantilly. Billy, did Jonathan Gannon need to apologize for the altercation on the sideline?
To apologize to himself. He was holding up a mirror. That was a mirror. He was yelling at himself. He wasn't yelling at the player. You yourself, you said it. It's happened hundreds of times since 2008. Hundreds. It's your job as the head coach to instill in players what it is that they need to do on the football field. That's his job.
Well, what if he did that and the player did it anyway?
You just said that you guaranteed every coach in the league has told players that. There's no way that every player has that's been enforced, or it wouldn't be happening. That's on the coach. That's the coach's job.
Billy, you think after all of these years, this is not a consistent teaching point every single time it happens in NFL locker rooms across the league?
How do you explain it keep happening? How do you explain it happens over and over again?
I can't explain it. The only way to explain it is that the players that do it are literally like single-digit IQ and incapable of learning or being taught, or they are massively self-absorbed and selfish.
IQ. You can't call that player single-digit IQ.
I just said it's one or the other. Self-absorbed and selfish, or literally stupid and incapable of learning. And so you're teaching it, you're going over it, but there's one guy that doesn't understand it, can't comprehend it, doesn't understand the rule, doesn't understand that it's been called not a touchdown hundreds of times over the last 17 years.
I think if this has been going on for the last 17 years, then I think it's stupid that coaches haven't enforced this in their players, that they would say they spend 100 hours a week watching film and their running backs don't know to carry the football across the goal line. I think that's on them. I don't think that's on the player.
You don't think coaches address this?
Kevin, if they addressed it,
that's your position. I just want to be clear on it. You don't think coaches have coached this in their locker rooms?
Kevin, you address holding, you address pass interference, you address all those things. Those things happen.
Yeah, but okay. The idea of that being apples to apples is insanity. Okay, holding, yeah, you teach them not to hold and they do hold. False start, you teach them not to false start. Sometimes they false start. This is one player crossing a goal line being told to hold on to the football for an extra yard or two. By the way, it should be an extra 10 yards. They should, totally be taught to go take the football and touch the back wall out of the back of the end zone. But I think you're. I don't agree with you. I think that I don't even think you believe that coaches haven't coached that.
Agree to disagree. I think some coaches haven't coached it. It's still happening. If they were good coaches, it wouldn't happen.
Look, some coaches, perhaps. Most coaches, no. Most coaches have addressed this now over a long period of time. I'm sorry?
$10 million a year as a head coach. Joe Gibbs always coached it. They knew to take the ball across the football across the goal line.
All right. Thanks, Billy. Kenny and Charlotte, did Jonathan Gannon need to apologize for berating Amari DiMercato and also putting his hands on him on the sideline after DiMercato did the dumbest thing we see in football, drop the football before crossing the goal line?
Thanks for taking the call, Kevin. I would say politically correctly speaking, you have to, unfortunately. I came up in the era of Buddy Ryan. If that was my son, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. And to address, the idea that coaches don't go over this, it's like saying that, the NFL doesn't have symposiums where they teach players how not to go broke so quick. It's something that is universally addressed within that fraternity. And I think it's just wanting to show off, and it's a little bit selfish, not that the player is selfish based on how he reacted to it, but in the moment, it is what it is. I feel like for my son, if DeMarcado was my son, I would have been just like the coach. I would have been okay with it. So I say, politically correct speaking, yes, to satisfy everybody, that, is soft in this era, in my opinion. But in football, and he had on pads, nah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm not worked up about the contact itself, like it was threatening. Like we haven't seen that between players and coaches, etc. But it was contact. It was physical towards DeMarcado. It was a coach who lost it in the moment. He was incensed. He was irate. He berated him. And my personal view is I don't even think of it as a 2025 too soft on players. I view it as there is a certain quality in leaders that is important in certain moments, and empathy is an absolute in the best of leaders over time. Old school, new school doesn't matter.
Kevin?
And in that moment, he needed to kind of control himself and address it after the fact as a teaching moment or as a disciplinary moment, whether it's a fine or even a waiving or even a benching, something like that. I have no problem with that
Can I say
at
one
all.
more thing,
But,
Kevin?
yeah, sure.
But I mean, so if there was a camera on the military addressing or showing how they discipline, what would we say then? I mean, my father.
This isn't the military.
And my grandfather.
This isn't the military. But
my grandfather was a great leader, and he had to apologize for tearing my behind up a time or two. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that. Those conversations are all the conversations we've had about, how we were raised versus the way we've raised our own. But it's not the same. The military, training somebody to defend your nation in a war versus a football game. Look, I guarantee you a lot worse has happened between coaches and players. We all understand that. Again, I'm looking at that particular situation, and I think, I'm not convinced I'm right here, but I think that with respect to this particular situation, players devastated, you're the leader. Part of your responsibility is to solve the problem, as he said, because the war is still going on, not literally. The game is still going on, and to address it afterwards, you could address it from a disciplinary standpoint, by benching him the rest of the game, no doubt. And maybe that would have been appropriate. But in terms of berating it and losing it, it probably made him feel great in the moment. But I don't know if it was the best thing. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie wants to weigh in on this.
Big guy, how you doing, man? Hail to the W.
Yep.
I'll say this. Was he right for doing it? Hell yeah, he was. Was he right for apologizing? Hell yeah, he was. I mean, I gotta agree somewhat with my man Billy and Chantilly. This is just like a false start. It's because it's a lack of concentration. That's all it is. It's a lack of concentration.
No, one thing like what he did is, hey, by the way, before you swallow, you need to chew the food. It's like a given.
No, we're not talking
it's
about
an absolute given. This is not comparable to a false start or holding.
It is.
It isn't.
It is because it's a lack of concentration.
Okay, the output, the reason for it may be, but the ability to execute it is completely different.
No, it's not, Sheehan. It's a
yes,
lack
it
of
is.
concentration.
Yes, it is. Hey, you need to hold until the ball's snapped, or you need to make sure that TJ Watt doesn't lay a finger on the quarterback versus can you just, with nobody around, run through and over the goal line with the ball in your possession? They're not apples to apples.
It is apples to apples because he
No, it
didn't
isn't.
do it because it's a lack of. That's your opinion. My opinion is a lack of concentration. He didn't concentrate on completing the play, just like Lyman didn't concentrate on starting the play.
You're talking about the cause here. I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about the overall comparison between the two situations. They're not comparable.
Let me finish.
They aren't.
Well, in my opinion, they are.
Yeah, I know. You're expressing it. You're entitled to your wrong opinion. You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
No, I'm expressing my right opinion. You're expressing your wrong opinion. Now, for the coach, hold on. Now, for the coach, that was a hell of a teaching moment because that team is a bad team. They've had moments of lack of concentration throughout this season so far, early in the season. Like you said, they should have a better record than they do, and they don't. I seen the game last Thursday. So for the coach, he lost it because that play was one of many plays this season where they're having a lack of concentration. I guarantee you this, nobody else from Arizona will do that again this year. You know, so it was a teaching moment. But he did owe that guy an apology and his team an apology behind closed doors, because if he don't carry himself as that type of coach on a day in and day out basis, and he did that, he did do that, then the players will start looking at him differently and responding to him differently. Because I guarantee you, as a player on that sideline saying, I wish he would have got in my face like that.
Right.
I'd slap the S out of him.
Yeah, well, I agree with that part. I agree with you on that part.
So he did.
I also would not guarantee.
But it was a coaching moment.
Of course it was. It's a coaching moment. It's a coaching moment potentially then, but it's definitely a coaching moment after you get out of the game, because you are a solution, creator. When the game is going on, it's okay. That's over with. Next play, we have to try to win the football game. And I thought that was an interesting part of his answer, which I would agree with.
Yeah, but for me, man, it was just a lack of concentration. And that's what he's trying to get his team to know, that we have to concentrate and attention to details from the start of the play to the very end of the play. It's just like saying playing through the whistle. So like I said, I agree on both sides. Where but was he right?
The lack of concentration is not my contention with you. The two events are not even similar, in my opinion, to one another in terms of the actual thing that happened. One is chew your food before you swallow. The other is, you had an issue with the recipe in making the food. They're completely different.
It's no different from a player getting a personal foul penalty, reacting to another player pushing them or nudging them. And what happens? The guy who always reacts get a personal foul.
Well, you just defeated your own argument. One's reactionary. There's nothing that he reacted to in that play. The dropping the ball before you go into the end zone, the conclusion's already there in his mind. He is scoring.
Now, so what you're saying is a personality a problem? He was too cool for school?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different reasons. I'm sure there are plenty of reasons for why this has happened hundreds of times. Too cool for school, lack of concentration, as you said, maybe spatial awareness. They thought they were already in. There's a lot of reasons for it. But I'm not saying that there's one reason for it, but a reaction to somebody, hitting you late and then getting up and reacting to it, that's not a direct comparison to what DeMarcado did or to what Mitchell did last week or Deshaun or anybody else. One's an emotional reaction. In his mind, he's already concluded. He's scored. He's euphoric.
And it's been coached. Like you said, it happened last week.
No doubt.
So it was coached. So if it happened last week and then your player ends up doing it again this week, that's a lack of concentration. But I don't think the coach was wrong on both ends. He wasn't wrong for berating him, and he definitely wasn't wrong for addressing his team and addressing that player. Because if that's not the type of coach he's been day in and day out, then like I said, he could lose the locker room as far as because at the end of the day, they all men. And that coach, we ain't talking about a 60, 70. We ain't talking about Pete Carroll We're talking about one of the youngest coaches in the league.
Yeah.
You know.
Thanks for the call.
He has to
Thanks.
tread lightly, man.
Yeah, I got to go. I want to get another call or two in here. Ross in Tampa. Ross, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Kevin? So,
hey, Ross.
This one had me fired up because I played running back. And the only person who ever made me fumble a game is a 7-time All-Pro player. You may have heard of him, Zach Martin for the Cowboys, unless he retired. But anyways, no, I don't have a problem with anything Gannon did because it's a thing that keeps happening. I got a bigger problem.
The question is,
Johnson.
did he need to apologize for it? So you're saying no?
No, absolutely not. He didn't need to apologize because that literally cost him the game. He holds on to the ball. I was raised to hold on to the ball. When the whistle blows, you get up and hand it to the referee every single time. When the referee puts his arms down from the touchdown signal, you toss him the ball, then you go celebrate with your team. I get sick and tired of seeing this for the pros. DeMarcano, this is his opportunity because Connor's out. So that was like your career moment, and you gave that up. And I don't know if you'll ever have an opportunity like that. It keeps happening. You just said it happened last week. And that right there was the starting point for what was the biggest collapse that I've ever seen. I don't have a problem with it. The only reason, you bring it up to the media is because they're going to address it. Because I wouldn't even address it to the media. That's an in-house situation. You talk to the man, and if I'm one of the players, I'm not consoling him. I'm calling him everything except for his name. Like Paris Johnson in that moment, I don't even know why he had his arm around him. I know he's hurting and stuff, but dude, you know better. You a pro. Come on now. So you just can't be out here doing stuff like that when you're not even at the top of the helm. You'd say Deshaun Jackson, if it wasn't for them being hurt at the running back position, he's probably getting cut today. But they can't cut him because they need him. So I don't have a problem with anything that he did. Would I have apologized? Probably, just because of the climate that we're in today. Because
hold on. You've gone, and I don't have a problem with it. I think this is a very debatable, situation. I do. You've just gone old school the entire call, and you just said, but because of the environment, I don't have a problem with him apologizing. You should have a problem with him apologizing if you believe what you believe. You believe that he shouldn't have apologized. Why would he do it to placate people? To keep his job? To avoid a suspension? Maybe?
Just damage control. That's all it is. You pop him in his chest plate, he ain't going to feel that. If he had his helmet on, you snatch him by his face mask. Let him know. I mean, you can't be doing that. This is the most elementary stuff I've ever seen. Give the ball the rep. I was scared to death to spike the ball because I was afraid that my coach would pull me. I'm giving the ball I'm looking for the nearest referee, and I'm tossing the ball. I'm not even spotting it for him.
Did you score enough to need to spike, to consider that?
Say that again?
Did you score enough to consider how you'd celebrate a touchdown?
I scored enough to almost become Ryan Kerrigan's teammate at Purdue. That's all I can hold on to. Other than that, not really. But yeah, man, right. I don't have a problem with anything Gannon did, man. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Doc in Southeast, go ahead.
Yeah, some of these folk don't really get the question. It was a question, not a proven. The question was, should he apologize? Absolutely. If he know what's best for him, because you could lose a locker room like that, and the guy that just got off the phone, which you say he played running back for a team, he must have been the only one on the team, because that's what a team do. When a player's down in the spirit, a team player will come over and bring him up.
Yeah. I think Doc, there's a lot to that. The player was devastated. His teammate, or at least one of them, was over there. Ross suggested that the teammate should have ignored him or berated him just like the coach did before the coach came over. No, there's, every situation is different, but in this particular situation, I don't have a big issue with how a teammate handled it. And I don't have a problem with him apologizing for what he did. Being irate and being incensed and being angry with what he did, especially if you consider the strong possibility that it was brought up this week because it happened last week in the NFL again. And it's not like these players over the years haven't seen this over and over again. And every single time it happens, the player that does it is literally called out, media, social media, as dumb as crap. Like, what a moron. And yet they continue to do it. And so I can certainly identify with the coach boiling, being incensed, and by the way, disciplining the player. at some point, whether it's in the game benching him or after the game benching him, cutting him, fining him, whatever you could do per the NFLPA. But I think
you go back
as the
to the
leader,
Washington Redskins is this: Gary Clark yelling at Coach Joe Gibbs. The next week he was in Miami.
Right.
I mean, the coach could, like you said earlier, trade him, cut him. You could have did any of that, but don't put your hands on it or arm on it. You remember the referee that threw the flag and hit the guy in the eye with the flag?
Right.
The guy retaliated.
The lineman.
So what if that player would have retaliated?
Right.
It's a lot of scenarios in that.
Good call. And there is a level with leaders, coaches, CEOs. There's a level of kind of understanding the moment. And by the way, having empathy. That's a very redeeming characteristic of almost every great leader. And I'm not suggesting Gannon doesn't have it. In fact, I'm suggesting he does based on his reaction. But he lost it in the moment. And I think everybody can identify that with that, especially given what the actual event was. Like, how many times are you kidding me? We just went over this. You can't be that dumb or that selfish. But when he put his hands on him, even though it wasn't a big deal, I mean, we've seen a lot worse than that. I think that there probably was, certainly with his team, maybe not publicly, I bet it was the right thing to apologize for that. In the same token, let me just mention this, because I don't think I've emphasized this. He can apologize for his reaction, and he should still, if he feels like this was a teaching moment last week or before the season started, discipline the player. Those things are not mutually exclusive. We're going to hold off on Jake Butt to talk about the Maryland collapse for tomorrow. But I am going to talk about what happened Saturday in College Park to finish up the show when we return. So, Terp fans, my thoughts on blowing a 20-0 lead next.
All right, it is Tuesday, October 7th. We start with a Monday Night Football recap. It was an electric game last night between the Chiefs and the Jaguars, who won on a broken play where Trevor Lawrence got tripped by his own offensive lineman and scrambled in for the touchdown. The Jags win 31-28. To baseball, the Dodgers, they hold off the Phillies as they attempt a late-game comeback, scoring 3 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, but Roki Sasaki comes in and escapes with the win. Dodgers now lead the series 2-0. The Brewers, they secure the win over the Cubs by a score of 7-3. Cubs off to a hot start off a 3-run bomb from Seiya Suzuki, but the Brewers answer right back with a 3-run homer of their own from Andrew Vaughn. From there on out, it was all Brewers, with 2 more bombs from Wilson Contreras and Jackson Chorio. Brewers take a commanding 2-0 lead in the 5-game series. More postseason baseball on tap tonight. On the AL side, the Mariners take on the Tigers in a day game matchup at 4 p.m. Logan Gilbert on the mound for the Mariners versus Detroit's Jack Flaherty in a series tied at 1 game apiece. Then we've got the Blue Jays going up against the New York Yankees. Shane Bieber on the bump for Toronto versus Yankees Carlos Rodon. First pitch for that one will be around 8 p.m. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type of the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Coleman stands beside Damon Williams. He'll get it. And he breaks in. Washington leads for the first time today. Maryland trails for the first time this year.
Washington was down 20-0 late in the third quarter in College Park against Maryland and scored 24 unanswered to stun the Terps in what was a brutal loss for Maryland fans, yours truly included. Window Nation's got a great deal going on. You know, it's going to turn cooler this week, and as the temperatures drop, if you've got older windows, cracked, stuck, old windows, drafts are created, heating bills go up. Replace those windows with new efficient windows from Window Nation. Their deal right now is as good as it gets. For every 2 windows you purchase, the next 2 are free with no limit. Plus, they will install your windows in 1 day or less, and that's included in the price. Put an end to your window problems. Call Window Nation at 866-90Nation or go to windownation.com. Mention my name to schedule a fast, free, in-home estimate. Get this taken care of before October 31st. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. So, I've got a couple of minutes here before we wrap this up. The Maryland loss on Saturday to Washington really hurt. So close to Maryland. It never saw it coming. They dominated the football game. First half domination, basically much of the third quarter domination. They've got a 20-0 lead. You know, Washington's first score late in the third quarter was a field goal, and it was 20-3. It never felt like the game was in, peril at any point, really, until it was at the end. Washington, couldn't do anything the entire game. And then on the final 4 drives went field goal, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. No turnovers, not short fields because of big returns. We're talking about a 74-yard drive, a 75-yard drive, and an 80-yard drive for their 3 fourth quarter touchdowns. Maryland would have been ranked this week, maybe 25th, 24th, something like that, 5-0 with Nebraska coming into town. If not, it does feel like, and I understand Terp fans, the feeling like same old, same old. So real quickly on the game. Number one is this. I thought the first half and much of the third quarter, offensively, Maryland was great. Pep Hamilton is the offensive coordinator. He was Andrew Luck's offensive coordinator at Stanford, then in the pros with the Colts. I think he's doing a phenomenal job with their freshman quarterback that everybody's talking about, Malik Washington. Protected him, lots of screens, lots of protection, lots of attempts to run the football, and Maryland was cruising. Defensively, they were great. There was a penalty, a targeting penalty at the end of the first half on their best defensive player, Sidney Stewart, that really had an impact on the game defensively in the second half. There were a couple of things that were just outrageous. First of all, there was a clear roughing the punter that was called running into the punter that I think would have saved Maryland. There was a dropped pass on the best throw Malik Washington made all day, down 24-20 at the end of the game. It would have put them in the red zone with about, a minute and a half to go. And Jaleel Farouk just flat out dropped it. By the way, Maryland leads the Big Ten in dropped passes. And then there was a taunting penalty on a DB in the end zone that cost them dearly. That just wasn't what the referee thought. They got to be careful flagging plays that are legitimately not taunting plays. With that said, Maryland defensively wore down because Washington made plays. Their quarterback, Damon Williams, was terrible in the first half. He was excellent in the second half. Maryland was without their best defensive player, understood, but they wore down. They couldn't get off the field in the second half. And the complaint that Maryland fans have, they didn't run the ball. Well, they barely had the ball after going up 20-0 because Washington went on a 7-minute and 37-second drive, then a 9-play 74-minute drive, 4 plays 75 yards, 11 plays 80 yards. They had the first drive after the field goal, they ran it twice and threw it once and punted. Then they used the passing game. It was a lot of RPO, guys. A lot of those are called runs or passes. There's an option there. And with a 5-man front, and that's what they came out in the second half, they went to the short passing game, which has worked for them. I don't have a problem with that as much as I have a problem with a couple of the calls and the drop pass. Locks now 0-10 after a bye week. I know that's an issue with a lot of you. With that said, I got to be honest with you. I feel better about the team after watching them against Washington than I did going in. I think we're going to find out this was a game between two average teams. That's fine. But I think Maryland is pretty good defensively in particular. And I think actually Pep Hamilton's doing a good job with the young quarterback. We're done. Chris Russell's next.